science and some biology. And one of the biggest influences on me and my notice of wildlife was Dr. William Clyburn, a retired professor from USM. I had him for natural history of animals, ornithology, a few field biology classes, and in my opinion, Dr. Clyburn is kind of like Father Nature. He would know everything from the soil to the sky and all parts in between.
I worked as a photographer on a newspaper and had been interested in photography for years. And I think that's where my interest grew. It didn't start there, but it certainly grew. And trying to take photographs of birds, I was able, while I was working on the newspaper, people would call and they would say, "Oh, there's a bird nest in my clothes hanging on the clothesline," or I know where there's a hummingbird nest, and would you like to take a picture of it? So that certainly was very interesting.
Tell them the rest of the story. This woman, we're living in Kerrville, Texas, calls Gilbert and says, "I have a bird building a nest in a pair of my panties on the clothesline. Don't you want to come take a picture?" Gilbert and I have that interest in Scotland, and in Scotland they don't call these bodies of water lakes, they're all lochs. And Cummings is my dad's name, and so, you know, my dad's passed away now, so we named our pond Loch Cummings for my dad and our love of Scotland.
Well, tell me a little bit about what is so fascinating? Is it the cliffs or the birds or what?
Well, it was birds that first brought me, the reason why I was able to go to Scotland, but it was probably the scenery that keeps drawing us back, and the history, the lighting. I guess because it's in northern latitudes, the lighting is different, and because it's cloudy and then sunny and cloudy and mixtures of both, the lighting's always change. It's like watching this exquisite oil painting that's constantly changing.
Birds, if you look at them closely, the feathers are just beautiful. And if you watch birds any at all, you'll see birds preening, and they do that for a very good reason, because if they are going to stay healthy and if they're going to stay alive in a lot of cases, then they need to be able to fly well, stay out of some of the hawk's way, especially those. So I really enjoy. Sometimes I try to think ahead about the shot, especially some birds, water birds, for example. If you've ever seen them flap their wings and kind of stand up in the water, I want to get the perfect shot with one of those, with a duck that's, just flapping its wings, and that certainly takes some skill. If you don't have the right shutter speed, if you're not in sharp focus. And I can tell you, I have many photographs that I think are good, but they're not in perfect sharp focus, and it's not easy to get one.
And then when we moved to Mississippi, out here in the country, there was birds around that I had never noticed before. And that's, when I started getting interested in learning, what are these little creatures? What are their names? What are those sounds that they're making? How to identify it? And just because there's such a wealth of bird life here in this part of Mississippi.
I think we've seen right at 110 different birds right here close to our house. Some of the bird photographs that I've taken were taken down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but we've still seen some of those birds right here around water. So there will be birds that are here year-round that most people see. And then there will be birds that only come here in the wintertime, and like the white-throated sparrow, and the phoebe is only here in the wintertime. And there's several other birds. In the summertime, we have neotropical birds that migrate to Central and South America in the wintertime. And the painted bunting, the indigo bunting, the blue grosbeak, the summer tanager. I would imagine that many people have seen the summer tanager and just seen it in a tree and thought, oh, that's just a cardinal, because it's about the same size. It's a red bird, but it's not a cardinal. And if you would stop for a moment, and if you see that movement out of the corner of your eye, and you see a bird, take a moment to look at it a little more closely. And there's not a more beautiful bird that you can see, in my opinion, than the painted bunting.
Be aware that every time it may be just a leaf that moves in the corner of your eye, but often it's not. It's some wonderful bird. And patience, of course, anticipation, but mostly just a desire to see birds and the willingness to keep looking. And there's, we were talking earlier about the special attributes of bird watching. We live in a very stressful world, and bird watching is that opportunity to find that quiet time. Because you have to leave those stressors behind. You quiet yourself inside and outside, and that gives you an opportunity to de-stress. And when you actually see that bird, it can even be a common bird that's doing something unusual. There's a feeling that you get inside that is satisfying, and it sort of recenters you. So it's a good way to de-stress.